This is Footwork Fight Talk. Back at you. So today, I am going to talk about Teddy Atlas. So Teddy Atlas was the amateur trainer for Mike Tyson back when he was coming up in the early '80s before he turned pro. And he's a commentator. Was a commentator on ESPN for quite a while. And throughout the years, it always kind of annoyed me the way that he would do this moral grandstanding whenever it came to Mike. So he always talked about his character and how rotten of a guy he was. And look, this is no disrespect to Teddy, but it is fair criticism. This dude, he came in and he, I think, worked with Mike for a year or two or something like that early on. And what's interesting is that if you probably went back in time and asked both of them if they were going to be a world champion, somebody would have been able to tell Mike that. And then at the same time, someone would have been able to tell Teddy Atlas that he trained a world champ. He was going to train a world champion, and that would be true. I wonder how they would take that, because what ended up happening in the future is that Teddy trained a world champion and Mike became a world champion, but they didn't do it together. So Teddy eventually went out and he ended up training Michael Moore, and Michael Moore beat Holyfield for the heavyweight title back in the 90s. So bottom line is throughout those stretches where Teddy was an actual trainer for professionals, he always did a lot of commentating, and he always whenever he talked about Mike, he talked about really how this guy was a thief and how he was a rotten person, and they had it out and they had this big fallout, and Cuz ended up kicking Teddy off the team, and that's when Kevin Rooney came and started to train Mike. But Teddy really just didn't let it go. Every time Mike came up, he had something critical to say about it, which is fair about whatever you think about Mike at that time, whatever. But the fact that this guy talked about it for 10, 15, 20 years, every time they saw Mike, he really made his name off of Mike. And that's the bottom line, is that every time he looked around, he had this something negative to say about Mike. And really, if you don't like somebody, why in the hell you got their name in your mouth like that? Why is it every time you turn around, you got something to say about this guy? It's because Mike was one of the biggest superstars at the time back then, and he could make his name off of it. And that's what he did. He made his name talking about Mike, and he repeated himself over and over again, doing all this moral grandstanding, only so that when he joined ESPN, that he can be as biased as hell. I mean, this guy, he always took the corporate side whenever you're talking about a situation with fighters, big fights, and he would always give these biased commentations, right? So even when talking about this guy named Vasily Lomachenko, talking about he's the best thing since sliced bread, and this guy was fighting for a championship in like his second pro fight. And really he's just an okay fighter. But that's just one example. This guy, he's biased as hell. He's super biased. And so for him to be doing all this moral grandstanding on Mike is just disingenuous. So that's just my 2 cents on Teddy Atlas and my observations of just watching him and his career over the years. This dude is a clout chaser. This is Footwork Fight Talk. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We out.